Box office slop after box office slop, cinematic universe after cinematic universe, and spin-off character movie after spin-off character movie. While Hollywood seems to be running out of ideas and continuously losing money on their big blockbuster hits, one company seems to be standing above the rest, A24. But how does a small indie company such as A24 even begin to compete with colossal giants such as Disney, Paramount, and even Warner Brothers at times? How is it that A24 is able to produce such high-level movies such as Spring Breakers, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Witch, Talk to Me, Bring Her Back, and even more? After doing some research and digging, there's actually 3 major ways that I can pinpoint on how they're able to do this. First off would be their extremely risky but productive marketing idea, which we'll get to first. Point number 2 would be their creative control and giving the directors as well as the cast members creative authority when it comes to their films. And last but not least, their willingness to take a risk and conquering the horror genre. So marketing. A24's marketing team is different than pretty much any other massive studio companies, and here's why. You see, instead of spending a bunch of money on a distribution company for making a bunch of trailers and other stuff for their movies, they rely on viral clips. For example, the movie Marty Supreme. We could see them turn the Vegas spear into a ping pong ball on top of Timothy Chalamet dropping a new song for the movie as well. And these kind of marketing schemes and tactics isn't something you would normally see for a movie, let's say for a Marvel project. Another example would be the movie Spring Breakers. The idea behind this was popular Disney stars at this point kind of going bad and going rogue, such as Selena Gomez. And then other movies such as Hereditary and Talk to Me had a major push over platforms like TikTok, including the movie Talk to Me being directed by YouTubers themselves, which we'll talk more about in the end of this video because it'd be crazy to skip over how they conquered the horror genre so far, at least in my opinion. But point number 2, and maybe one of the best selling points for directors, is the creative control they give. See, with the money they save when it comes to their marketing idea, they can give the directors more money and take the risk by giving them more of the creative control, which is something that a lot of companies don't do. That's kind of why when you're watching an A24 film, you kind of get that vibe. Let's say for Uncut Gems, or maybe you'll see a bunch of neon lights that kind of pull you in. Just the way they're directed and the story is told just feels different. And the way it feels different each time is because they have different directors and they give them that creative control. They let them do their job. Now, I'm not saying mainstream directors in Hollywood don't have this right. For example, Christopher Nolan, he essentially can kind of do what he wants with a blank budget, but that doesn't happen to everyone. But when you're watching movies like Hereditary and Heretic, The Lighthouse, Witch, Talk to Me, you get ideas that you're watching an A24 film. It just pulls you in. It's just, there's not much you can say about it. And this creative control is what helps when it comes to providing unique scripts, as well as telling different stories and allowing the directors and the cast members and the producers to do their job. That's how it stands out from being a cookie cutter movie that we get sometimes with Marvel or other superhero movies or Fast and Furious, other franchises like that. But all of this does come at a price, which brings me to my third point, is taking a risk. You see, but creative control does come at a price. Not every movie is some box office hit, and this is where taking a risk comes into play, which would be my third point. Some people don't know this, but A24 usually pushes out around 20 projects per year, and they don't hear about them all because some of them go straight to streaming. But the other movies, for what seems to be like they have more faith in, they usually push to theaters. For example, this year, a new horror movie called Undertone is coming out on top of Glenn Powell's new film, How to Make a Killing. And even another rendition of Robin Hood starring Hugh Jackman and Bill Skarsgård called The Death of Robin Hood. And you see, this is the power that A24 has. For example, we've seen Robin Hood hundreds of times before, including other renditions such as Green Arrow, which pull similarities from Robin Hood. But the fact that A24 is taking a risk and making the movie The Death of Robin Hood, and they're able to pull such high-end actors such as Hugh Jackman and Bill Skarsgård, I have faith in this movie and the script at this point that there's going to be some good twists and a different telling of this character we've known before. And because we're able to tell such a crazy story with creative control and pull big-name actors in what essentially would be an indie film, and we're telling a story we've seen 1,000 times before, but A24 is heading it, I just have this reason that it's going to be different and it's going to be something special. On top of the fact that A24 movies always don't play it safe. There's not always a happy ending. So for that alone, I'm excited to see the movie The Death of Robin Hood. And I just mentioned the movie Undertone, right? Which is about a horror movie kind of with a podcast theme on top of playing on the aspect of audio when it comes to horror movies, which is one of the biggest features for a horror movie, which is why we have to talk about how A24 conquered the horror genre. And this is one of the biggest crowning achievements, I believe, for A24, is how they seem to provide a unique experience in the horror realm, despite it being done over and over again. For example, Hereditary, Talk to Me, Bring Her Back, Heretic, all of those movies are in the realm of horror, but all seem to be different in a sense, with some people even including Hereditary as the scariest movie they have ever seen. For example, if I'm going to watch a Conjuring movie or Insidious movie, I feel like I know what I'm going to get every time. An okay story piled on jump scares, which there's nothing wrong with that. But when I go to watch an A24 movie, I can expect more twists and turns on top of maybe even being a little bit darker and grittier, or maybe even a cult aspect to it, right? There's always some type of undertone, no pun intended, for the new movie coming out when it comes to their horror movies. And that's what draws people in, especially with Talk to Me being unique and different, even having YouTubers do it. A24 also has a Backrooms movie coming out. Some of these movies seem like they wouldn't work on paper or don't make sense, but they give these people these creative controls when it comes to these projects and a gamble on these horror ideas, and it seems to work most of the time. And if worse comes to worse and it doesn't work, most people are still leaving the theater and watching the movie saying, wow, you know what? That didn't work how I thought it would, but I still had a unique viewing experience, and I appreciate that, and a lot of horror fans do. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want to overglaze it. Not everything A24 does is perfect and a masterpiece. Some even flop, and that happens to every studio. But A24 seems to be such a refreshing taste in Hollywood, while a lot of other companies are playing it safe with what seems to be cookie-cutter cinematic universes or spin-off series and just big box office spectacles. There's just something about a grounded movie where we let the director and the cast work their magic and allow them to take the viewers on a different viewing experience. And that's how I believe A24 is built such a cult-like following. I mean, a lot of us would have restricted Adam Sandler to mainly comedy roles until we watched Uncut Gems, or we could see him broaden himself as an actor. I just think A24 is such a refreshing taste in Hollywood at this point. Don't get me wrong, I'm excited for Avengers Doomsday, Spider-Man, Dune 3, The Odyssey. I'm still excited for those films. But I love watching these little indie movies, indie films, like put me on a different journey, give me a different aspect to the horror genre and stuff that most films are too afraid to take the risk of. This was a different kind of video for me, so let me know your favorite A24 movie in the comments, as well. Make sure to follow us, stay up to date for all gaming and movie news like this.